Hello and welcome to the Talkin Bits podcast. I am your host, Michael Rose, the guy that you came here for, the funnier of the two hosts.
That's right. The
better
second host
looking
in a hat today, too.
Yeah, I did. I wore this hat. I make the joke in the actual episode. Spoiler: we're recording this after.
You just can't do it naturally. Huh?
I can't do it. I can't. But I do make a joke that I wore a CrossFit hat just so every time Nathaniel looked at me, he knew I was better than him. How are you, inferior host?
I'm good, man. It's been a crazy couple of weeks for me, honestly. Been doing a lot with comedy and work's going crazy and stuff too. So I'm exhausted, but I'm good. I
see you're changing your vote this year from Trump to Segura.
I am. That's true. I was getting there. Shout out to Tom.
He's wearing a Tom Segura 2024 shirt.
Shout out to all my mommies out there. Greg Payne, I'm looking at you. He knows what that means.
Also, Greg Payne, at one point we mentioned my wife's favorite comic and my also favorite comic in the episode, and we never said your name, but we were talking about you, Greg. Just know that.
Yeah, Grampy did not say you were his favorite, so sorry. And speaking of Grampy, he's our guest.
He's our guest today.
So yeah, today's episode, you guys are in for a treat. I think this episode is interesting. We've talked about it for a long time. We were fascinated with the conversation around character comedy.
Yes.
And his decision to do that. Do you feel like you learned anything about that decision?
Yeah. No, I feel like I think he had a really good point about marketing himself on it.
This is a very business-oriented episode, I'll say. And not that that's all you'll get out of it, but I think he's very business-minded.
Yeah, he looks at comedy. I mean, like, there is a bit, like, comedy is a business.
Sure.
Like, if you're going to be successful in it, you got to look at it business. But he really has, like, he has the business training.
Above and beyond.
To look at
I think of the local comics, he is the most, I don't know if I'd say advanced or progressive or what the word is, but as far as, like, marketing himself and business side of things, he's out there. He's already got merch, which we talk about in the episode 2.
I didn't know what his real name was for 2 months when I knew him. So
Grampy. I do want to say also for anybody listening, most of our comedian friends that listen to the show know that we are not doing the same thing as Grampy. They're probably not doing the same thing as Grampy. It's a different thing. It's a different thing that he's doing. It's still comedy, and we talk about that ad nauseum in the episode, and he's very detailed in his explanation of why he does it, how he does it. But I want to encourage our normal, regular listeners to listen to this episode with a different mindset and, like, give him a chance. Because to be perfectly honest with you, coming into this episode, I myself was a little skeptical of this decision. Not in that I thought he's making the wrong choice, but it's just not what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I was uneducated. I didn't understand.
You're not a character.
I'm not a character. Well, in some ways.
But we talk about the episode. But yeah, like you're still pretty true to yourself. Which he is still true to himself.
It's hard.
But
it's hard to talk about it without sounding demeaning, but that's not what we're doing here. We wanted him on this show. We wanted to talk about his experience with comedy because
we don't have anybody else go on stage with a pseudonym.
That's true.
That's the right word.
Well,
right? Is that the right word?
I think there are pseudonyms. Yeah, like Mark Twain. Samuel
That's a
Clemens.
pseudonym, right?
Yeah. There are pseudonyms, but not in that way. That he
hasn't happened in a while. Hasn't happened in a while.
Is one.
Hasn't happened in a while, but I am getting a phone call while we're recording.
Beautiful.
So
So this episode is a chance for him to not only talk about his decision to become Grampy, because as you'll find out in the episode, he did not start out that way initially. Nope. But he also this
started out with
if you're on video, if you're on audio. This paper.
Oh, God, that sounds awful.
It's great in the audio.
Don't ever do that again.
I'm going to chew something crunchy after this. Yeah. He brought with him a full, basically a resume.
A business plan, isn't it? I didn't even look at that. Let me see that.
Check that out. There's a vision statement. There's future plans. It's not just notes for the questions. He has this laid out to a science, to a business. And he's very articulate in describing that. I don't know about you, Mike. I think this episode may be the most informative one for me in quite a while. I feel like I learned a lot. Now, also, I don't 100% agree with Phil on everything that he said. I don't necessarily agree that my own journey or my own path, I could follow the rules or the advice he gave. But that doesn't matter. You cannot deny this man. He knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah, he definitely knows.
He knows what he's doing.
This is crazy.
It's impressive.
And he did go through this, but like I'm reading like pen to paper on it.
Yeah, it's impressive. Really, he's got it nailed down. And I think both of us have been fortunate enough to work with him and do shows, and we'll have some coming.
He did
up
just
soon.
book us on 2 shows. Yeah.
So we do want to thank him for that. But more than that, I think this episode will be a great chance for the listener to see a different side of this show, because this is much more informative. We're not fucking around as much. But I think he had some great insight.
I agree. I agree. It was a great episode. It was delayed a little bit because he got COVID last time we were gonna have him. So
and that's tough when you're old. Yeah, COVID's tough.
It's tough when you're anybody.
Not as old as we thought though, which you'll find out in this episode.
Yeah.
Tune in and see what his official age is.
I hope he skips this intro. I hope he just rolls into the.
No, we love it. Yeah. It's been super fun. Before we jump into the episode though, Michael, you want to plug any? You got any dates coming up?
Yeah, I'm a bad comedian, so thank you, Phil Ketron / Grampy. But he did just book me for July 15th at.
Your only date is your brand new one.
Yeah.
Me too.
I do have another one. I do have another one. It's at Blue Ridge. I just don't know the date. Sean booked me on it a while ago.
Who's the headliner? Do you know?
It's a Get a Good Tape show. So
okay.
I don't know when I don't know when those are. So I do have another one. I potentially have a couple others coming up. Nathaniel's having me headline Don't Tell.
No, he's not.
Yep. So
so
plug your Don't Tell. This does
June
come
15th?
out the day before.
It does. Yeah. If you're listening right now, tomorrow, Don't Tell Comedy in Johnson City. I was thinking for a second if I could even announce. It is in Johnson City. Yeah, it's on the flyer. It's going to be in Johnson City. Not telling you where. Don't tell. Headliner.
Is that what it is?
And I mentioned before, is a exceptional fucking dude. Hilarious dude. Coming up out of Nashville. Regular at Zanies. We've both worked with him before.
I'll cut this if I need to. But he's a clean with an asterisk comedian.
Yeah, that's true. He no, don't believe that at all. He's not. He's not at all. It's gonna. I'll show you some shit after this. It'll make you rethink.
Oh, I'm so upset I can't go to that show. That's a plug to the show. Also,
yeah. No, he's incredible. Don't Tell. It is the 25th, April the 25th. And so it's Saturday. No,
April 27th, pal.
Sorry.
Yep.
That's next month. Spoiler alert. So the 27th of April. We're going to have him coming up from Nashville. It's in Johnson City. We're going to do an early and a late also. So there's going to be 100 tickets total, 50 for each show. Grab them while you can. Our last one sold out quick. So grab them. It's going to be fucking cool. We're going to have a lot of awesome locals on the show too, which will not be announced until they step up to the microphone. So check that out. Also, just because I kind of slipped up and said it early, we've got a very special show planned for next month also. That one is going to be in Bristol. We're coming to Bristol. Bringing Don't Tell to Bristol. That one's on the 25th. That's May the 25th.
May 25th. Cool.
There will be 80 tickets available for that one. Tickets won't go on sale for a while, but just a heads up if you're listening and you're like, I don't want to drive all the way to Johnson City. We're coming to Bristol. We're doing it big. Yeah. And then also, just because you plugged Phil's date too, he booked me on a show as well.
June 15th.
June 15th. I'm going to be, that's a Saturday. I'm going to be in Kingsport with Grampy. And I also have one more.
He was the one talking about plugging. He wasn't even ready for it.
Oh, this is kind of, it's not an exact date. I just kind of want to announce I'm going on a little trip in May to Louisville. So I'm going to be doing some shows up there. So if by some fucking miracle you're listening to this and you're near Louisville.
Louisville.
Louisville. I will be up in that region.
That is the right way.
I'll be up in there. So
I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to tell it on air, but I'm going to tell you the only time I've ever been to Louisville. Anyway, enjoy our episode with Grampy.
With Grampy.
We love you all. And we're here. What's up, guys?
Yeah.
Welcome, Nathaniel.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I don't know why you looked at the guest when you said my name. That kind of threw me off for a second. I thought you were going to say me.
Welcome, Nathaniel, and welcome, Phil.
It's good to be here.
It's good to have you guys.
Not sure which one I am. No, it's good to be here. We're very excited. Just before we press record, we're talking about how we mention a lot of our local friends and fellow stand-ups on the show. Today's guest we've mentioned as much as any other, for sure, except maybe Blue Ridge, which we shout out every episode. Yep. Because I just think he's doing something unique. I think he's doing something different, and I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. A lot of folks have asked when he's going to be on, too.
Yeah.
So
we're welcome.
Here, with Grampy.
Thank you.
What's up,
you.
Buddy? Are you happy to be here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Great.
Excited? Are you nervous? You feel like you're in the hot seat today?
Well, I don't feel like myself.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
When I am myself, I don't feel like I'm myself as far as being a comedian goes.
Ooh,
so
wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's a little different. So.
Man, my mother therapist inside of me right now is like, let's get to the bottom of this.
You should do it. I'm cool with that segment.
Identity crisis. Yeah, let's bring mom in. Yeah.
No, I'm cool with you. I'm cool with you just using all the knowledge you overheard from your mother growing up.
Oh, it's not overheard. It's what was screamed at me through my locked slam door. That's what.
Oh, okay. Even better.
So did you slam the door or did your mom slam the door?
It depends on the situation you're asking about sometimes. Yeah. It just depends.
It depends if he got caught smoking weed or if she got caught smoking weed.
Oh, okay.
In some cases, it's both. Yeah. How awkward.
Well, I can relate more to your mom probably than the other way around. So
yeah. Well, at least you can only relate to her because everybody else on this show talks about other things with her. But that's all right. Our guests are very disrespectful. We're very excited.
Maybe if you didn't have 10 minutes of jokes about it, it's no big deal.
Phil,
how long have you been? How long have you been doing comedy for?
2.5 years.
Shoot. Now, did you start at Blue Ridge?
At Blue Ridge. It was a bucket list thing. And a buddy of mine, Eddie Louding, you guys probably know him. He was doing it before, and we'd always talked about when Johnson City had their open mic or the comedy show. We'd go all the time, and we'd always say, hey, we're going to do this one day. We're going to do it.
Was that at Willow Tree at the time?
No, there used to be like a comedy club.
Yeah, it
was the Willow Tree. The Willow Tree was
right. The one in the hotel. Yeah.
Yeah, the Willow Tree was a mixed mic.
Yeah, I know some people who did that one too. So the bucket list thing is interesting because I think once you're around stand up for a while, like we all have been at this point, long enough, you see those people, and normally that's a one-time thing.
Right.
So what do you think for you when doing it that first time? Was there something that just hooked you or baited you, and you're like, I'm doing this forever?
Well, my personality, I'm not ashamed or bashful to do anything.
Yeah.
That's kind of the irony that I do a lot of the clean stuff is that I'll say and do about anything.
Right. Right.
I heard a story about you the first time you were on the stage.
I know the story.
Yeah, that is a true story.
That's good. For anyone who knows, Yeah, if you want to share it, you can share it.
Okay. Well, the first thing is I had a lot of liquid courage.
Okay.
So
as most first timers do, especially.
I was pretty drunk first time I was on that stage too.
So Blue Ridge had a show, and we went and saw the thing, and then Sean announced, hey, we have an open mic on Wednesday nights if you'd like to come. So I told my buddy, I said, let's do it.
Yeah.
And of course we go there and they're having the open mic, and I'm sitting there tossing a few back, and I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going up. So I had in my mind I was going to do this joke. It said that, sex is a lot like oxygen. It's no big deal unless you're not getting any. So I was trying to take my shirt off, but my undershirt was on as well, and everything came off.
Yeah.
So I was like, in all my glory, just sitting there, and it was all just hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to do it at that point.
Well, at that point, yeah, if you accidentally do it, just go with it.
I mean, like, what was I going to do? And I didn't know that, Tom Segura does that all the time.
Bert
Kreischer does it, yeah.
Takes it off all the time.
He does.
So,
Segura 20.
So
we got we have a write-in candidate over here.
It's a fanboy.
So, and I think the one thing that I wish that somebody would have told me before I went up there is you don't have to take the whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting up there doing this, and I might have had a minute, maybe 90 seconds worth of somewhat material,
Yeah.
And I sit there and trying to take the whole time sitting up there topless, kind of thing. So
that is extra stressful when you don't have material or a shirt. That's chilly. That's a lot.
It's pretty chilly in Blue Ridge too.
It is. So. It gets chilly in there. Yeah.
Well, it was the only thing that was hard that night.
Sure.
Did the audience react well when you took your shirt off?
Well, just Meredith.
She does still talk about it. That is true. I think that's probably where I heard the story.
I absolutely love Meredith. I mean, she is one of my favorite people, and
the best.
And she was talking.
Let's talk a little crap about her, though.
Yeah, let's.
But I know she's listening. Let's do it.
But she was talking about the whole man not knowing how to give her no and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and of course, I'd mentioned, she just needs to get her a Bob boyfriend, the battery operated boyfriend kind of thing. So none of it was really original. It was just crap, just trying to throw stuff off. And
that's your first time. You're just trying not to pass out on stage.
Yeah. But like I say, when I hear somebody saying they're going up for the first time, I always say, you don't have to take the whole time.
Yeah.
You don't have to just
I've heard you give that advice.
Do you tell them to leave their shirt on too? Do you mention that?
I think that's pretty much a given. But
did you feel any pressure to take it off the second time you went up? Or were you like, maybe that's my key?
That should have been your character. Just
shirtless Grampy.
Well, Meredith created some T-shirts. I don't know if you know this is to put it on, leave it on. But no, just kidding. That's the only time I've ever taken my shirt off, and hopefully will be the last time, unless we have like a strip comedy show, or something. If whoever loses the joke has to. We talked
about with Sean and Sarah. I think we talked about underwear shows and naked shows that they used to do in Boston. I think I'd rather die than do a naked show. There's no way.
I'd get a lot of laughs. That's a lot.
Sean, just full on.
Yeah, me too.
He's telling us about these naked shows.
I think it would be more shock and awe than laughter for me. I don't think anybody would enjoy it. Yeah,
I think the craziest part of Sean telling us about these naked shows is that he told us that he just didn't feel comfortable taking his socks off, but he had everything belts off.
Left his socks.
And I was like,
Was he wearing 3 socks? That's my question.
I don't think so.
just the 2.
I don't think,
just the normal 2.
Oh,
I don't know.
I don't know.
How much money
Those
would
are
it take you to
stressful.
do a naked show?
A lot of money.
15 minutes naked. How much?
Maybe if it's for a good cause, like. But then again, what
Like
charity?
what?
I don't think St. Jude's is
What?
like, we've got a naked comedy show.
Yeah,
this week.
that's a Make-A-Wish Foundation. How they
Wounded Warrior. I don't think they're doing it.
Wounded Warrior. It might be Wounded Warriors. That's funny.
I don't think they're doing it.
That's funny.
Well, when you get old, everything shrinks. I mean, so
I do hear that. Yeah,
it's
I hear
just-
that.
Yeah, Nathaniel's screwed.
I'm still,
I mean-
I'm young and it's already not good. It's not good. Yeah. So on the show, we always, we start off with how long have you been doing comedy? And then my personal favorite question, I think it just gives a real good look into the comedian, is what are some of your influences in comedy before you ever actually touched a mic? Before you ever went up? This could be as a kid or you started much later, obviously. So is there any big name comedians
he's
or
old?
shows that he started later than we did in life. Is there anything that sticks out as a good influence for you?
Well, a lot of the comedians that I grew up on, you guys may or may not have. I mean, some of them
I
obviously.
don't know.
Michael hasn't.
Nathaniel knows all of them. From
Michael
some,
definitely doesn't
I don't.
know, but lay him on us.
Well, I mean, Steve Martin.
I know Steve Martin.
know-
Like,
Yeah,
don't.
but you just know him for
Shut-
Cheaper by the
shut the fuck
Dozen
up.
and Pink Panther, and that's not cool.
I didn't know from Big Bad. They're just Cheaper by the Dozen. Anyway,
And Robin Williams.
I know Robin Williams.
And Stephen Wright is
Dead
actually a
Poets
character.
Society.
Yeah,
And when I
He's
started,
great.
I started, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the character and why I did the character
Yeah.
in just a second. But I try to learn something from everybody that comes in there, like Brian Morton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I first started doing it and saw his reverses and his surprises,
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, he's great.
And then Hunter, the energy.
Oh my God,
I
too
mean,
much.
Just kidding.
He's
No.
I can't do it.
but I'm just saying,
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
And I-
exhausting watching that.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that, from my standpoint, I'm not trying to do this as a career. I've kind of got a plan. I've got a vision. I've got all this stuff that I want to do. But, I'm just want to have fun.
Yeah.
And I keep telling myself it's entertainment.
Yeah.
So when I'm up there doing something, I'm trying to entertain people. I mean, they're sitting there. They're paid good money, hopefully. I personally hate the shows that are at a bar that people don't pay to come for comedy,
Yeah.
because I think that just sets a bad audience.
Yeah, they don't want it. They're
Yeah.
not there for it.
They're
Maybe
there.
they're in spite of it, like trying to talk over it. Yeah.
But every comedian that goes up, I try to look at something.
Mm-hmm.
And the hard part is, it's just like there was something I was working on, and then Kevin James comes out and he's doing the exact same crap. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what sucks. But,
Yeah.
even you guys, I mean, you do a little something, and I was like, I need to try to do something like that, or I need to try
Yeah.
to do this, try to do that. So as far as influences, I think every time you watch somebody, I'm a junkie at it. I mean, I've watched
too.
every Netflix person that's out there,
Yeah.
every YouTube.
Do you have a favorite right now, like a name that's real relevant now? Because Michael might know that one, actually.
Well, the funny
I
thing.
knew all the people he mentioned, by the way. Just so you know.
Just from the
And I was like, I didn't even heard me naming Robin Williams movies. I was muttering Robin Williams movies to piss you
the
off.
audience heard. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know they heard. I was making sure you heard. Anyway, yeah. Who's your? What's like one of the most recent?
Well, most of them are not recent, though. That's the hard part. They're,
problem.
they're probably one of my biggest favorites. His name's Bob Nelson, and he did the Playboy All-American. And if you ever get a chance to look up the Playboy All-American, he just does some silly stuff.
Have you seen that one, Nathaniel?
That name does not sound familiar to me, actually.
Really?
I was
Are you
thinking
even a
Super
comedy
Bob
fan?
for a second, but that's not the same guy.
Are you even a comedy fan?
Yeah.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
He's everywhere.
This is what we do. We invite guests here, and then we get real petty and we argue with each other in front of the guests.
Are you guys not married?
Yeah. Sean did ask us if we're doing a will they, won't they tension on each episode, like building up to a finale.
Building up to
I said
episode
we're the
100.
Ross and Rachel of the podcast world. That's what we
Right.
are. Yeah.
I actually don't know who Bob Nelson is. I'm sorry, I was being petty.
Bob Nelson, yeah. What range are we talking there with his
80s.
stuff? Okay.
He toured with Gallagher for a long time.
Okay. Got it.
And actually saw
Gallagher's a comedian.
and Bob Nelson at the Paramount. I guess this has been, gosh, it's hard to believe. Of course, Gallagher's deceased.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Pretty recently, too, passed away.
Did you
Yeah.
guys see
Maybe
Dusty
a year
Slade
or
is
so.
going to the
I
Paramount?
did see that. Yeah.
he's going to be there.
He's great.
Yeah. He's very funny.
You do. So, well, on the subject of the Paramount, I see every now and then you attend a lot of comedy.
Right.
A lot of live comedy, both at Blue Ridge and at the Paramount.
Paramount's
and
just
other
a
venues.
theater in Bristol,
Yes.
for those who are curious.
Big theater. Do you ever find yourself burnt out at all on do you ever be like, man, I need to watch a horror movie or something to balance out all this comedy.
No, just my wife does.
Yeah.
Your wife get real burnout on comedy?
Yeah. Well, I said, well, you can go with me today. Oh, no, what are y'all doing? And I said, nah,
yeah.
You know,
she
was fun.
I get it.
Kayla at one point was like, I need to take at least a month or two off from the comedy club. And I'm like, but why? You know, you don't want to laugh. And
was she there when you bombed that hard? Because that'd take her 6 months.
Which one?
To come back.
Which time? It's just...
You said it best.
I don't like.
That's hard. The most recent one, I think.
The open mic. The open mic where I thought about killing myself on the way home. No, she wasn't there for that one. Yeah.
Well, bombing on the subject is that. So you mentioned you're like a sponge. You take in information, and I actually, when I first started, I used to make a note of one thing to learn from each comic too. Very similar. I think even the worst bomb, there's something maybe learn what not to do.
Right.
Sometimes is valuable. But everybody bombs regardless. I mean, is there one? Do you have that one bomb in your head that sticks out of like, I will never not think about that moment? Just those they keep you up at night. Those awful bombs.
No, I just think bombing's part of it.
It is.
You know,
it definitely
and
is.
I just let it roll. You know, I ask myself when I go up, did I have a good time?
Yeah.
And I always have a good time.
That's great.
I mean, even if
I do not always have a good time.
Actually, Phil, I have a bone to pick with you.
I know. I've heard your podcast, the one that
the
rum bar.
I have a bone to pick with you.
Okay.
So, if you guys have been listening to the podcast for a while, you've heard
I don't
the story.
know what this is.
You were there when it fucking happened,
Okay,
dude.
all right.
If you guys have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know the story of the rum bar the first time I was ever there.
The fight?
The fight.
Okay.
And Phil Taylor was hosting. But there's a whole thing going on. No, I'm sorry. Joey was hosting. Phil Taylor's what caused the fight.
Yeah. True.
And then y'all are outside dealing with it. And old Phil Ketcherin, in the middle of it, while you guys are calling the cops and nobody's paid attention, calls me on stage. And I proceed to eat it for 7 minutes.
What? Did you like bail halfway through your set or something?
No. It was just like dead.
Y'all took a break. Phil Taylor went. I was after Phil Taylor.
Yeah.
And then, we took a break. And then you called me up in the middle of it, and I just ate it.
Yeah.
My whole set.
Well, I didn't realize that it was only your second.
It was my third time ever.
Third
time doing comedy?
Ever.
I did not know that. Yeah.
But it was just such a distraction. And I was just,
oh my gosh.
I was just like, let's get the show back on the road. Let's try to get everything focused.
A brand new comic.
Let's bring in this seasoned veteran.
But, as a business owner myself, I'm sitting there and just saying, that was all a catastrophe.
Oh my gosh.
All the way around.
So many loose ends and variables. That could have gone so much worse too.
And
I wish a beer bottle would have got smashed.
It almost did. Yeah, it was rough. It was rough.
But it was just, we got to get over it. Got to move on. Try to get this thing back on the tracks. And you were the next one on the list.
That was that was the first time my wife ever saw me do comedy. Also,
beautiful.
Just so you guys know,
she's like, "This is what you've been doing on Wednesdays. This is."
Well, you went back and she got pregnant after that, or was she?
No,
pregnant
she was
already?
very pregnant during that. Yeah.
I was about to say, yes.
I'd already locked
Weird
her
timing.
down.
Yeah.
She was already locked down.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't like that at all. I'll stand up for Kayla on this one. I don't like that.
I made that joke at our child's birthday party in front of a lot of people yesterday.
That's awesome.
It did well.
Oh yeah, happy birthday to little OJ.
Yeah, happy birthday to my
she's
baby
one
girl.
So.
She is.
One big year. That's awesome.
And I apologize.
No, it's okay. It's a funny story.
I'm gonna say much worse to him before this is over. So don't worry.
But
did you guys hear the news about O.J. Simpson?
Oh yeah.
Did he die?
Yeah. Sorry.
That's the news. That's what you wanted.
That's all it was. That's all it was.
3-week-old headline. All right.
That's all it was. We haven't recorded in a while, and we shouted out baby OJ. And Nathaniel, I'm wearing a hat today, and I'm wearing a hat just so every time you look at me, it's a reminder that I do CrossFit. You don't. So
yeah. I see that.
Shout
you also
out
have a free Carnival Cruise Line sweater on with khaki shorts, and it's 11 a.m. So we'll let the audience decide on this outfit.
I'm a real winner. No,
vote in if you think Michael's an idiot. All right.
You're wearing a Tom Segura for President T-shirt.
$30. I gotta wear it. I gotta get my money's worth. I gotta
$30.
$30. But the craziest part, it was at Bridgestone Arena. The craziest part was the drinks were like worse than Vegas prices. I couldn't believe it. A seltzer was $20.
Oh fuck that.
White Claw was $20.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
I saw the Preds play there last year, and it was like $10 a beer, and I was like, I'm not worth it.
I
Anyway,
guess they're trying to make their money back. Whatever. But so of the big names you've seen, Phil, I mean, is there one that sticks out to you of like where you think you learned the most, especially being like a sponge and wanting to take in information from each person? What have you ever seen a comedian where you go, I feel like I don't even know what I'm doing anymore?
Yeah, Jeff Allen.
Okay.
And of course he's he's more of a Christian, clean comedian. Him and I saw he went for an hour and 30 minutes down in Greenville. He had no host, no opener, nothing.
Wow.
He went straight for an hour and a half, and I was just like, oh my, if I could do that.
That's wild.
Just walked onto the stage, introduced himself, and went for it.
Just went for it.
That's
Wow.
a lot. How was the first little bit of that show? Was he like really having to warm the crowd up, or?
I think every comedian starts off with some sort of local something.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm in Greenville. I was here for a golf tournament. I made it for one. They all kind of do that. But he hit a groove. Of course, he's been doing it for 30 some years.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part for all of us is we sit there and we see, these people that come up and, they're polished and they do all this and we're trying to judge ourselves based upon them.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
we shouldn't.
He
No.
also, and you kind
They know
of
how to talk to
mentioned,
the
he has
crowd.
a real niche audience.
Right.
And that audience is there for him. Unlike you were saying in one of those bar shows where they're not even there for comedy, much less for us specifically. His crowd is there for him. So I would imagine, I'm not going to say it's easier to perform. In some ways, I think it may be harder to perform for a crowd who's there to see you because that's a lot of pressure and expectations. But I think in that lane in particular of the clean Christian comedy, he knows those folks are there for a specific thing and he can deliver that.
Right.
As opposed to like a club setting, you kind of just, especially on a showcase or don't tell, shameless plug, where you don't even know the comedian until they step up to
Tomorrow
the microphone.
night.
You have no idea what's coming out. So I think that's exciting. But with that crowd, I mean, do you think they respond well to comedy? A clean crowd that stresses out people, I think, who are not clean comics.
Well,
I mean, it stresses out non-clean. Yeah, but a clean comic, if that's their niche, they're
But
going
I'm
for it.
wondering what the crowd, because I've been to clean shows, I've been on clean shows that you were kind enough to have me on, but in a bigger room like that, because I imagine how many seats that was roughly for him.
3,000.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's massive.
Well, I
That's
mean, think
3,000 people who are there for a very specific thing. I'm wondering, do they react in the same way? Because you've been to both club comedy and that.
Right.
Is it different, you think?
I think everybody likes to laugh.
Oh, yeah.
I think sometimes it's harder because they're not drunk.
That's a good point. That's
Has to be a
great
better
point.
has to be a better writer.
Well-
I mean, think of like Nate Bargatze. Like you've seen him.
Yeah.
You've seen.
But Bargatze also played all the New York clubs for a decade. He's used to club comedy. So I think if you can crush in a club, you can crush there.
I guarantee he did clubs too at one point. You don't just.
I'm wondering. So if you can crush in a club, you can probably crush for a clean audience like that. I'm wondering, does he go in the other direction? Could you take a Christian comic, put him in a nightclub, and he do well?
Oh, yeah.
I think so too. I think it's a different skill set, but I think they're both important.
Well, it's just like
Brian
Michael
Bates.
Palisak. He was just
Palisak?
at Blue Ridge, and he does clean. And I think that's something that, I'm because not all my stuff's clean. I mean, some of my better
You have
jokes.
a very dirty joke that I find very funny.
We should also say we
talked about that one time with a big old asterisk.
Quote unquote clean comic. Yeah.
He might not cuss up there, but he'll.
I think your subject matter may be dirtier than anything I have, but you deliver it in such a way.
Speaking of the rum bar that night, that there was a fight. Right before the fight, you did go up and you said a joke. And this one, like the guy who, the girl's the one who started the fight, but the guy who was with her.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, come on, man. To one of your jokes. Yeah.
That's what started it. He was.
So,
But I actually think that comedy, we should have a rating system, just like with movies.
yeah.
Because I've had friends who've said they've gone to Blue Ridge and the content was so bad that they had to get up and leave
Yeah.
because it wasn't their taste, which is
Wasn't what they
okay.
wanted. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
But I think if you come to a club, a comedy club, you should kind of expect it. But I think if you
Agreed.
kind of have an R rating, like I've got a show with the 6 Grist and Grind, and I've got strictly on it R.
Yeah.
It's rated R.
Yeah.
Subject matter may not be appropriate. So that way people can
They
know
can't be
coming
mad.
in.
Right.
Yeah.
They can't be mad also if they're like, oh, yeah, it's going to be clean.
Well, I
and
think
then-
most shows market as 18 plus or 21 plus, but what they ignore is there's plenty of people over those ages who still don't want that type of
They still
content.
want PG-13.
Right.
Or PG, whatever. Yeah.
Even, I mean, obviously, I think Blue Ridge is a almost a anomaly in that it is a comedy club, but it's a comedy club in a very small, very conservative town.
Right.
So, like, a comedy club is, like you say, almost inherently, you're going to get some wild shit, but not if it's in a small town like that. You have to appeal to who's coming in the door,
Right.
in a way. And I think Sean does a great job of kind of balancing his bookings to where there is a dirty comic, then there's Michael Palisak
Right.
or Brian Bates that you mentioned too. Was
Aaron Weber. Has
Aaron
been there.
Weber. They draw a specific audience. So when you decided to, first of all, at what point did you decide to go from yourself taking your shirt off to now I'm going to be Grampy?
Okay. Well, and Michael, you can probably relate to this as much as anybody. The first thing is my last name's Ketron, which people around here get. But when I was going to different places, people were butchering my last name.
Yeah, I get it too.
Nobody could remember my last name. The other thing is I'm in insurance, and people are like, what's Phil doing in insurance? Michael, you're in real estate.
Yep. Yeah.
Michael Rose, that's played for Michigan, basketball. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. It's like Sean Carter. There's a lot of people.
Owner of my
Sean
gym.
Carters, yeah.
Owner of my gym has the same name as me.
Really? Yeah.
So, I've got a master's degree in business. So I'm sitting here saying, okay, how am I going to distinguish myself? So the 4 P's: product, price, placement, and promotion.
Yep.
So that was part of it. The other thing is right after I took the class, I was all excited. I'm good.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
So you took Sean's, we've mentioned that on the show.
You had to be like one of the first classes, weren't you?
Second class.
Second class. Yep.
class.
As a matter of fact,
You took it twice.
I took it twice.
I remember you telling me that
awesome,
one time.
Because I failed it the first time.
Really?
Well, when they had the graduation, I sucked. I mean, I was like, I've got to redo this.
Were you doing Grampy for that? At that
No,
point? You're
no.
still, okay,
I was doing Phil Ketron.
Got it.
So I had family members coming in for Thanksgiving. So I bought a bunch of pizza and invited a lot of friends, church friends, and those type of things come over there.
Yeah.
And there was one, of course, it was open mic night,
Oh boy. Yeah.
And so most of my stuff is made up.
Yeah.
All of it's made up.
Yeah.
Of course, I do a little thing that, raising boys, somebody told me what you need to do is get some hand lotion and Kleenexes and they'll figure it out, kind of thing. Well, I've got both of my boys. They're grown men.
Clean
boy.
comic.
So,
Yeah. Not at this time. Yeah.
And then I do a joke about, my wife shaving their pubes for the holidays
Right.
kind of thing. So
Classic
The
clean
asterisk
Christian comedy.
is getting bigger and bigger.
Classic
Well,
Christian comedy.
This was pre-Grampy. Okay. This is pre-Grampy.
Yeah.
So
this is like the BC and AD of Phil's life. This is, yeah.
So when I sat there and it just did not go as expected. I was hoping, oh, you're doing great, blah, 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 and all this. And all it was people were pissed off at me. My boys were mad. My ex-wife was mad.
Oh, wow.
So I finally came, it's like.
Wait, was she ex-wife at the time already?
Ex-wife now.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she was, I had an ex, but I have an ex joke.
I was just making sure that she wasn't an ex due to that joke. Like at the time she was my wife, now she's my ex. Like,
God, if that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, that would be.
that's bad.
Well, but I had one video at the Wallace, the first video, and it talked about her, and it was true. I was using, as everybody does, using real life type things. And I got a little message from her that she appreciated if I left her out of all of my comedy routines. And I was like,
we're very different, Phil. But that would make me write every joke about her that I could. I'm just such a vindictive person.
But when you have boys,
Right.
It's still their mom.
That's true. Yeah.
And the amazing thing about it, we're friends now.
Yeah.
As soon as the child support ended, it was much easier
That's
to be friends.
that does check out. Yeah.
So when I'm sitting here and stepping back and say, look, it doesn't make sense. I'm an insurance guy. Nobody can remember my name. So what can I do to make myself rememberable?
Yeah.
So then I kind of said, okay, what is my I've got a vision.
Yeah.
And I encourage every comedian to have a vision. If you don't have a vision, the old saying is a dream without a plan is just a wish. So have a plan. And I'm sitting here saying my plan is I'm going to retire when I'm 70. That's 10 years.
Yeah.
I know I don't look 60, but I am 60.
Actually, funny you should say that. We were just having a conversation about you last night, my girlfriend and I. And I said, I don't think the Grampy persona makes you appear much older than you are.
It does.
She's seen you many times, and I was like, I think you'd be shocked at how young Phil actually is.
I thought mid 50s.
Our guess was 55, 54, 55.
So my timeline's 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are young. Your timeline's 40 years.
Yeah.
50 years.
I don't know if I'll make it that long, but we'll see.
But you
I've seen
understand
this man drink.
I got to start sleeping. Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? I mean, I realistically have 20 years.
Sure.
Top end 25.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here saying, okay, I'm not going to quit my day job.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. So
5 years out from retirement. Yeah.
Well, I mean, at 70, I'm drawing Social Security, on Medicare, and I have grandkids. And I told my wife, my goal is we're going to sit here, and if we can travel the U.S., buy an RV and make it all a business expense. Do cruise ships.
Yeah.
Get free cruises, maybe even make a little money. If I break even, I'm going to hit every assisted living, nursing home,
Sure.
I'm not a club comedian.
Right.
That's not my forte.
But we
I'm
should
a
mention
theater.
you still do clubs too.
Oh yeah.
Blue Ridge in particular, you
Oh,
do
yeah.
all the time. Now, and this is something I've actually wanted to ask you for a long time. When you show up to Blue Ridge, some mics are better than others. Sometimes there's not much crowd. Sometimes there's a great crowd. But the length of comics can vary too. If you see there's 20 on the list and you
Right.
see people from Asheville, you see filthy comedians, you see other clean comics, do you have any apprehension about putting the name Grampy on that list?
No.
You just do it.
Yeah,
I do. I want to say one thing about your name, Grampy, and you brought up a good point. It's like it's hard for people to remember your name is Phil Ketchern. I didn't know that I did not know your name I knew you for 2 months
Right.
before knowing that
You
your
thought his
name
name was
Phil.
just Grampy?
I knew it wasn't Grampy, but like I just did. You always put it as Grampy. You
Yeah.
introduced yourself to me one time as like Phil. You did
Yeah.
introduce yourself, but every other time I ever saw you, people called you Grampy. I was just like, oh, Grampy,
Yeah.
and then yeah,
Marketing too.
Oh, and it's really weird. I had somebody last night. Hey, Grampy. You know,
yeah.
I don't know who they are. I've
Yeah.
seen people in Food City. Hey, Grampy. Hey.
That's kind of cool, though.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's kind of cool. Well, we've mentioned, so when we ask folks for influences on the show, sometimes the influences will be character comics. Like I think Larry the Cable Guy or just
Yep.
those blue collar guys has been mentioned before. He, to me, and Dice Clay are probably the two biggest examples of their character. They're all character. They never drop it on stage. They never drop it. And they're so successful. So I think that is a lane that's possible. But a lot of non-character comics or comics like us and other club comics see the character as you're not being able to be your true self, I think, is a thing I hear from folks
I
when
think-
discussing
yeah.
character comedy.
I think I've seen people say like or think that, but I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair.
No, I'm not saying I agree with it.
Yeah.
I'm saying a lot of people would examine
Way to
the
insult our
choice.
guest. You know, way to just
No,
really.
no, no. This is I think this is an important question. A lot of people see the choice to be a character comedian, and they think I could never do that. I do relate to this. I could never do it because I feel like it boxes me in. Like I have to write for the character.
Well, see, I disagree.
Okay, explain.
See, I see it as a complete opposite. I mean, my personal life, I'm a boring dude. I mean, you know, I'm 60-year-old, you know, empty nester.
Yeah.
I sell insurance for a living.
Got
You know,
it.
that's boring.
Yeah.
You know, I've got nowhere as well. With the Grampy character, to me, it's like writing a book. You know, I'll get in this area, then I get into this area, and I get into this area, and I start exploring. Okay, what are some of the things that seniors fear? I mean, I've got just
Right.
unlimited potential.
Yeah.
You're fleshing out this character.
I like that. I like that.
So to where if
Outlook.
you're writing it just about yourself, I hope hope you got a lot going on.
A fascinating person. Yeah, you're going to run out of stuff.
You know, because if you know, if you're very I've just got three things and everything's about three. Because I think, and I've taken a lot of classes. I've taken a lot of online classes, and it's all about the audience.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Of course.
and Jerry Corley calls it the map. The material is first, the audience is second, and the performance is third. Well, the audience is the most important part of that.
Yeah.
That's the fulcrum, because you've got to be able to relate to the audience. So if you're telling jokes, like, you know, I don't want to mention any comedians, but
Just name them.
Yeah,
No,
name drop.
I-
We'll bleep them.
no, I'm just saying. But if you're talking about something so specific to you,
Right.
Yeah.
and-
I've
and-
had that. I've done that before.
and
Yeah.
I've never done that. I've never,
Yeah.
I can't relate. So,
Yeah.
so it's not going to be funny. Now, if I've done that or I've worked in that industry,
Right.
then it's hilarious
Yeah.
because I've been there. But the masses, we have to try to adhere to the audiences. And
Right.
in my demographic, I've got a target market. It's not your guys' age group.
Right.
It's not the 20s or the 30s.
Well, I was actually going to say in the exact opposite, that when it's a mostly older crowd at Blue Ridge, or there's even been situations where you bring quite a few folks for your shows, or that show we did in Butler, that's not my target audience either. And I think I experienced that same disconnect that you're mentioning. Yeah, just in the other way. Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that's where we as comedians, you were talking about, when you're a Burt Kreischer or whoever, that people have watched your videos and they're coming out to see you.
Yeah.
You're going to have a much better response because they know what they're getting.
Yeah.
And I think in the bar, you're just coming in there and it's kind of potluck. Yeah. Sean and Brian and I, we did a birthday party. The guy's turning 80 and, he got me to do it. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm going to do really well. But that sucked. I mean, they weren't there for the comedy. They were there for a birthday party.
Those private events are rough.
Oh,
They
yeah.
can be. They
I've
can be
never-
amazing.
I've never
Yeah.
done a private event at the club. I've done.
Well, it's not just. I
think I've
know.
done a private event.
This is when I first started comedy. I remember seeing Pruitt.
I have done one private event.
Pruitt,
Anyway.
Johnny, and Brian, I think, did a country club show one time, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember thinking at the time, that's incredible. those
Right.
guys, look at how successful they are. They're doing a private event. They posted a picture smoking cigars on a golf course. I was like, look at them. And then they told the story afterwards, nightmare show. Absolutely nightmare show. You're like, there's two sides to it. You know? Yeah.
Well,
What you
and,
post on social media is always the better part
Sure.
of it.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
and you know, the thing that I keep hearing, you know, for people who want to travel, people who want to tour, do corporate events, so forth, that clean is green.
Yeah.
You know,
That's absolutely true.
I saw Tim Hawkins at a church down in Morristown
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks ago. Sold out. You know, those people were packed in there. I mean,
Yeah.
there was people waiting out line. I was like, oh, it's going to take forever to get in, but they weren't checking bags. You know, like
Right.
yeah,
It's a church.
Yeah,
So
we're probably good.
it was a church that got in there, but Tim Hawkins just killed it. If you ever get a chance to watch somebody, he's very, very good.
Yeah. Now, he's a name in that clean space that I've heard before. I think my grandma is a big clean Christian comedy. I introduced her to Facebook a few years back. So all she does all day is watch Facebook Watch, and it'll see. So her algorithm is all people like that, clean Christian comics.
Leanne Morgan. I'm sure.
Big
yeah.
fan of Leanne Morgan. Yeah, she loves her. All that. So I think that is a niche market too. But so when you saw him do that, I would imagine that's just kind of confirming this vision of yours that not only is it possible, but it's profitable.
I think for somebody who wants to get into clean comedy, like I personally, for me, I'm not a clean comic. I'm not clean in my day-to-day life. I have a very dark sense of humor. And so like me being clean.
You're also just not clean. You smell bad most of the time. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It's a stupid joke. We'll be right back.
All right.
All right.
You done?
Anyways, you're
You
not
good?
a clean you were saying?
You good?
Yeah.
You sure?
You're not a clean comic?
You want to
You
get
were
anything else, or you want to cut me off again?
Do you want to just...
No, okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, that went too long. I'm sorry. I thought that was going to be funny, but no laugh.
We'll trim
No.
it for the audience.
We
Yeah.
won't. So for me, I'm not clean in my day-to-day life. I do smell very bad. But I'm not clean. I don't find anything I do in, I find funny humor in dark stuff. And so like whenever I'm on stage, like I'm a darker comic, buckle up, boys. That's a you joke. Anyway.
Oh,
so
that's the worst. Isn't that the worst, Phil? When you see a comic get on stage and say, strap in, I'm about to get dark, or like, you better settle in.
But
it's
you know,
never good.
you can be dark
Yeah.
and still
and be
clean.
clean. Anthony Jeselnik.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about somebody local. I mean, not local, but popular right now.
Famous from Bristol, right?
Yeah, he's famous for so, but he's really, if you had to say a comedian that's touring today, he's my favorite.
Is he clean?
Well, his material is not clean.
No.
But he's not up there talking,
Not super vulgar. Or,
with the language and those
Plays
type
at
things.
the Wallace a lot. Yeah. That was just for Michael. No, it's interesting that you say that, because when a lot of times on this show, I got him. A lot of times on this show, when we ask influences, I can see directly in the person. Like when Joe Bridges says Norm Macdonald, you see it.
Right.
When you mention Jeselnik, I look at Grampy and I look at Jeselnik, and I don't see any connective tissue there. Maybe I'm wrong in that. I could certainly be wrong. But
You're more of a storyteller than Jeselnik is, I feel like.
No, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that that's my style.
Yeah.
right, you just appreciate it.
Yeah, even like, if you look at Mark Norman, he's more of a W.C. Fields. If you go back, I
Very
know
much
that's
so.
an old name.
Oh, he's
you know.
right out of a 40s radio program. Yeah, see, that's
Yeah.
literally his whole. That's yeah.
So, but even like the local comedians, I love what I like doing this is getting to know everybody.
Yeah.
And cheering everybody on, and it's not a competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I've seen, we were talking about before that when Pruitt first came out, he was in the first class. I was in the second. I've seen Pruitt for a long time.
Yeah.
And if you had a most improved comedian, oh my goodness, it's him by far.
He's so great.
And then you see people who work really, really hard, like Sean Bagley,
Yeah.
and he's come a long way.
Yeah.
He
It puts in the time.
I haven't seen Sean, and I feel like it's like 4 or 5 months between every time I see Sean Bagley and every time I see him, he's just leaps and bounds better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which is what you want.
Yeah.
And is it Michael Mullen? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Michael Mullen, yep.
He's improved.
Former guest
Love
of the show.
Michael Mullen.
Yeah.
So, I love
Yeah.
as
Michael
far as-
Mullen's seppuku joke is maybe one of my favorite jokes that's
Yeah,
come out
he's
of
got a
Blue Ridge
few-
Comedy Club.
he's got a few good
Just
ones.
want you guys to know
Well,
that.
Peyton Williams also, we've had him on the show.
Yep.
Peyton
Right.
is kind of, I guess you would say he's still kind of the new guy
Right.
of the club, even though he's really been around a
Yeah,
long time.
he's been there for I'd say about a year now.
I don't think there's
but, like,
anyone at the club that I think of as like
Who's
kinda, like,
consistent?
consistent, and is the newer guy just yet. I think Peyton still has that slot, which I can relate. I was the new guy for like 2 years almost.
I was
like
the new
a
guy
year,
for like 3 months
until
when
you
Peyton-
showed up.
When Peyton got there.
Yeah,
I was
he
new
cut you
guy
some
for.
slack.
I was new guy for like not long at all.
Yeah, you were the first one after me. So, but Peyton's been on the show, and he was very new at the time, and we talked to him a lot about that. So, seeing that improvement, I think, and we mentioned, I think when he was on the show, Peyton told a joke about Walter White of Kingsport, his dad, for the first time, and it crushed. It got this massive pop, and Michael and I sat in the back, and we watched Peyton's face when it popped. It was almost like he didn't even expect it to do that well, and he was overwhelmed. He didn't know what to do. He never had to adjust the timing to wait on a laugh like that. He stepped all over the laugh. He talked about it on the show. But when you see stuff like that, does that motivate you? I mean, because you had those moments too. You didn't see them because you were taking your shirt off, but you had those moments where you improved. And I think sometimes too, Travis and I have talked a lot about there'll be moments like that, and then there's moments where you're like, man, I've hit a ceiling, and I'm stuck right now. It's super discouraging.
That Walter White joke actually might be my favorite joke out of Blue Ridge Comedy Club.
Good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Peyton's great.
Well, and again, like Travis, he could talk about opening an envelope, and he's funny.
Yeah,
I mean, he is just there's just something he's got that it.
He's got the stage presence.
He also, I think, like you were saying about Pruitt, I admire Travis. We spend a lot of time together, writing together, talking about comedy and stuff. But I think he has really come into his own in that he is almost doing character comedy now when he's on stage. The character of Travis. He's an exaggerated version
He's
of
very
himself.
much like Travis is who he is on and off stage, but on stage he's very.
It's just turned up to 10.
It's just a character.
Right.
I mean, that's what, your lane or your voice and those type of
Do
things.
you think, would you agree with the statement that every good comic is doing character comedy?
I think everyone
just
is
doing a character of themselves.
I think we all do characters of ourselves.
Sort of. I think it's different though than like the Grampy situation.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of the self-deprecation.
Okay.
To me, it's about you. It's not about the audience. So unless the audience has been beaten as a child, or
right, they can't relate.
They can't.
I used to get abused.
But sometimes
it's my best joke.
And I said something to Dustin Aaron one time. I said, does that not affect your psyche? Because he talks about his number of teeth in his mouth and all. I said, is that not? So to me, that's where
I would say for me, because I do a lot of self-deprecation too, and
not
I think
as much as we all do behind your back.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. You guys give me a lot of my jokes.
We really do.
Yeah, that toothbrush joke. Thank you, Andrew McCaffrey.
Yeah, and Corbin Lamaster. Shout out to Corbin, who headlined that Don't Tell in Blue Ridge a while back. He with Norman. He gave me a joke that I tried last night for the first time at Wallace, and it crushed. And it's the most rude thing he said about me.
What was
in
it?
jest. He said I look like I have a trans beard. He was like,
it did go well.
It went great, because I got on stage and I was like, "That's a tough world out there, especially when you have a beard that looks like this." It's like, I know I look like I'm halfway to a successful transition to male. I get it. It's like 6 months of testosterone.
That's very funny.
He gave me all that, just roasting me in a bar in front of Mark Norman. But you spin it and you use it. And I would imagine for Dustin, to kind of go back to your question about him, I would imagine it's a similar thing. Like there's almost like therapy or some release in saying that.
Well, like for me, he said he was very comfortable. It doesn't bother him. He's very comfortable, very secure, and that's fine. But I'm just like, I don't down myself.
For me, kind of like Dustin. I mean, I kind of agree with that. It's like, we all have like those thoughts about ourselves, and I'm like, if I think about it about myself, somebody else is gonna think about it. Or if somebody tells me about it and it's funny, and it's like, oh, they're not the only person who can like make that leap,
right.
And so I'll just use it. But I don't like. It's hard for my feelings to get hurt.
I don't know if Dustin would relate to this. I think for my style, quote unquote, uniquely, is that if I go up and I'm self-deprecating in the beginning, I feel like I can kind of discharge the audience or put them at ease that like, I'm in on this. I'm making fun of me because I have some stuff where I make fun of my girlfriend or my mom or my dad or my grandparents or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I have to kind of put myself on this evil playing field up front.
You have to like take yourself down a notch.
Asshole.
Yeah, because like that's what I do. Because like I always open with 1 or 2 self-deprecations, and then I'll just be an asshole for the next 10 minutes about. And that's like, I think that's my character.
However,
I don't think I'm an asshole in day-to-day life.
Yeah.
But on that stage,
and that approach works.
I'm mean on that stage.
Opening up with self-deprecation works in a club environment, but in the environments you're saying that you appeal to that audience more, I don't think it's the same. I don't think a church crowd probably doesn't want to hear you say,
look
I
like
have
a
32
toothbrush.
teeth, but only room for 28 teeth. Like,
well, I mean, funny's funny.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's true. But I'm just saying that's just not my style.
Yeah,
right.
And I think as far as our character or whatever. What is your style?
Yeah.
And the Grampy fits my style.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
because I see, you know, where I'm headed, where I want to go. And I still keep some dirty jokes because, you know, if I'm on a cruise ship,
Yeah.
they
Like-
want 60 minutes of clean
60 minutes of dirty.
and 60 minutes. It can be kind of crossover.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's just like, you know, the butt
Yeah.
plug joke. I love, that's my
Yeah.
favorite joke. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I
You
love
did it last night. Yeah.
And
yeah.
the funny thing about it, when somebody says, "What's a butt plug?" Then I, you know,
Well, let's not go into that. After the
you know,
show.
I
We're
missed,
dirty enough already. Let's
I've missed the audience. You know, when I've gotten there.
at the
so.
Wallace, they didn't know what a butt plug was.
Oh, they did.
They're
But I'm
lying
saying,
to you. Yeah.
I'm saying I've done that before, and I've
Oh.
had people afterwards like, "What's a butt plug?"
Yeah.
You know.
And
Yeah.
let's talk about it. Yeah.
You guys are both talking about like your favorite jokes that you have. I don't know what my favorite joke is right now. I know what my most hated joke that I have is.
Well, when you get a good one, you'll probably like it, I'd say.
That's funny. That's funny. No, it's just all of mine are so
I
good.
can't help it. I can't.
All of mine are so good. It's just hard to pick.
Oh,
one.
right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what, yeah.
yeah. It
Well-
might be the OJ joke. Might be my favorite joke. Honestly,
It's a classic.
that
It's a
might
classic.
be. I
It's
think.
the foundation of the show, really. is what
I
it is.
think I will say I think like if there's a joke that I'm known for around Blue Ridge comedy,
That's
it
true.
is the OJ joke.
That's
Right.
true. When he
Uh,
died, how many texts did you get from comics? Like,
Katie Steigers is the one who told me. She messaged. I didn't know yet, so she
Yeah.
sent me an article, and she was like, "Thought thought this might help your bit." And I click onto it. It's like OJ Simpson dead at 76. So I'm like, I immediately click out. I message her back. I was like, "Thank you so much." And then I was like, "That is such a weird thing to say."
you know how many in loving memory bumper stickers I get sent each week?
Oh yeah. Oh,
All the
also,
time. All the
also,
time. People are like, look at this shit all the time.
my parents were watching our daughter the day that OJ Simpson died, and so I go pick up our daughter from my parents' house that day when I get off work, and my mom was like, "Did you see that OJ died? You can probably maybe use that in your joke, can't you?" And I was like, "What is like I love it. Like you guys just
It's weird.
yeah
Yeah.
You guys
It's a
are
weird
in
life.
it, so
Phil, do you have, so you mentioned Pruitt also being kind of like most improved in your
Right.
head, and I would totally agree with that. But is there a comic that
who's
you-
really gotten worse over
Yeah,
time?
let's talk about who's not improved.
And not and I know the answer is Nathaniel, but
That's not the question. The question is there a comic that you think you don't necessarily share a style with? You don't think they're doing the same thing as you, but you just really love to watch them go up? And I have one in mind that most people on this show say, including your wife, is her favorite to watch. But is there a local scene comedian that you're like, I just love seeing him go up?
he's my favorite also.
or
I think
she.
I just want
Yeah.
to point
Well,
that out.
yeah.
You know, I would say, okay, would be good on a show together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
yeah.
like Pruitt and I were two different audiences.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
You know, same thing with Meredith. I mean, I love Meredith.
Yeah.
I like a lot of her stuff that she does. And
It's
same,
different.
And same thing with Hunter. You know, there's just
Same, yeah.
certain people that they're just so far different from my audience and
Right.
what I'm trying to do. But, you know, there's not really anybody that I wouldn't want to share a stage with. I think the only thing that I've seen some of the young comedians is, you know, as you've been there a little bit older.
Yeah.
And when I first started, there were people who were coaching me. Like Brian Morton said something to me when I was doing some hosting. Hey, do this, do that. And I try, again, I'm a sponge. I try to absorb it.
Yeah.
And I think that we all need to be coachable, whether you've been doing it for a year, a month,
Yeah.
or 5 years, or
Agreed.
for 40. That just like your joke about your transitioning beard.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes people will see stuff in your comedy that you don't even see.
You've given me a couple tags before.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, you know, so I think that's how we help each other out as a community, because I
Yeah.
want us all to grow.
Sometimes it's easier to write for other people too,
Oh, yeah.
than yourself.
Oh,
Pruitt
yeah.
Pruitt has written
Pruitt.
10 of the top 20 jokes that have come out of Blue Ridge, and 9 of them aren't even his joke. But he wrote them. Like, he writes everybody's joke.
His whole set.
Everyone's best joke was written by John Pruitt. That's
My longest opener was a Pruitt.
Yeah.
One.
He's great.
Well, Joe Bridges writes jokes for me.
Yep.
Joe Bridges
And-
Dustin Aaron's given me a couple tags
Yeah.
too.
Well, Joe also has a similar, like a one-liner style. And I know Grampy, you tell stories as Grampy too, and do kind of shorter form stuff. But do you think that Joe's, I would argue, mastery of that short form writing, it appeals to your style? It flows.
Well, I mean, I'll tell everybody this. You know, if you got a good joke for me, I'll pay you for the joke. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
you heard it here first, ladies.
Fallon and some of
That's
these other people, you know, they have joke writers.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, they
A
perform.
room full of them. Yeah.
Now, a lot of times, like with Joe, he sent me 10 jokes.
Yeah.
There was only one of them that fit my character. You know, that they're funny jokes.
Yeah.
But if I don't feel comfortable doing them,
Yeah.
or saying, okay, that doesn't really fit.
Yeah.
And I had another guy that he's in Charleston, South Carolina, that, you know, he kind of he helped me on one joke, but on another joke he came up with, and it wasn't my joke anymore. So it's like, I don't mind help, but if it's not my joke, I don't really want to do it.
Right. You're almost shopping them. Like when they send you a list, you're looking through. Well, not that one. Not
how much
that
do
one.
you? How much
fit.
do you pay for jokes?
$20 if I use it.
I thought he was gonna.
No, I mean that's
What you pay for
pretty
sex?
cheap.
I would
Is that
have
what I was gonna
flipped
ask?
over backwards if you're like $1,000 a word. I pay $1,000.
Well,
Yeah, if you start paying, if you're paying
Insurance is going well. That's
if you're paying $1,000 a word, I'm hanging up my license and I'm writing jokes full time.
right for the rest of
and I don't mean to make it sound like hey, but I enjoy the performance.
Well, also, let's
Yeah,
say,
no,
just for
it's-
the audience listening, so they don't get the wrong impression, you write your own material,
Yes.
too.
Yeah,
Almost
yeah.
predominantly.
Almost,
you write
yeah.
a lot of your jokes, if not close to all of them, and they're all in your style. But I think just like we were mentioning with Pruitt, sometimes it's easier for folks to see your character from an outside perspective and say, I think Grampy would say this.
Right.
Because you're kind of in the weeds of it. And with Pruitt, he's doing that for us because we're ourselves, and I'm so in my own head and in my own way. I don't even see stuff when it's right there. Whereas with Grampy, it's you mentioned it's almost like creating a character in a book. It's almost
Right.
like fan fiction. People
Right.
are writing like, oh, this character would then go on to do this.
Right.
Yeah. It's a different thing than what we're doing. I
Yeah.
think.
Well, and it
And
gives, me,
it's
it gives
also-
me a different line of thinking, like you're saying.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like a theme. Okay, well, I've everybody does the colonoscopy jokes, so I'm trying to stay away from that.
Yeah.
Everybody does the doctor jokes, so I'm trying to stay away from that to do what everybody else has done. The hard part is I never want to somebody say, well, that was my joke, and you didn't pay me for it, or you stole that or did this. That's the hard part. And Joe and I kind of have a relationship that, we go way back.
Yeah.
And, so he's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
And he'll do stuff, but that doesn't mean I use it. And it doesn't mean I pay him for every joke he sends me. It's only one that I want.
Yeah. And really, you're still
I'm fighting so hard not to make a joke at Joe's expense about him wanting money. I can't do it. I can't
Do it.
No, I can't do it. Let's
He's
move
listening.
on.
No.
He is listening,
He's
and he knows
listening.
exactly
Do
what I'm
it.
talking
No,
about.
do it.
But
And by the way, Joe's a very good baker. If you've not had any of his
Oh my
cheesecakes.
God.
I liked your page yesterday, Joe.
He
You invited me to
is-
like your page. I
I
did
also liked. He is incredible. When he was on the show, he brought us some brownies. Was it some pastries? Some brownies.
I don't know. They were laced with weed. So.
Yeah, he spiked them. No, he used to sell them at the club too. If you're listening, shout out to Joe. Buy his pastries. They're fucking great.
I thought you were gonna say buy his album, and I was like, that's news to me. Does he have an album now?
That's Sean.
Yeah.
Buy Sean's album.
But,
Real quick too, I do want to mention because part of this show is obviously showcasing our friends and getting to know them. And with you, we're mostly interested about the character comedy thing. But I do want to tell our audience real quick, in terms of doing clean comedy and stuff, I think people look at it differently than club comedy. Obviously, it's a different thing, and a lot of people would assume that if you're doing clean comedy, you're probably just the sweetest, nicest person, which is probably not always true. But I do want to say that when we did the show in Butler, we collected tips afterwards, and Phil was kind enough to donate all of that to Sean and Sarah's fundraiser, which I thought was an exceptional thing to do. And you also had some merch, and all that went to Sean and Sarah too, which is just the best possible thing. I just think that's great.
What kind of merch do you sell?
Shirts and the little armbands.
Oh, that's
He's got all kinds of cool
so-
stuff. He's got totes of merch.
Well, and see, that's just fun.
Yeah.
Again,
It's great.
I just having a good time.
It's business. I
I
think
want merch.
the one
but
thing
I'm
that I
not
hope our
successful
listeners
enough.
really get from this is obviously you said you went to business school. You know all the acronyms, whatever it was.
He's
Percocet,
been-
Percocet, and Percocet. The 4 Ps. But if you know all those, I can see now how that makes its way into your comedy. Not just with merch sales, not just with the branding and the marketing and the character, but I think we talked about one time how Joe, back to Joe being a baker, his whole life outside of comedy is perfecting recipes, getting these little nuances, trimming the fat quite literally, and getting it down to the best ingredients. That fits his style of comedy. And I think the business side of things really gives our listener, I would imagine, a good insight into what Grampy is.
Yeah, no, I mean, like if you want to get into comedy, like if you want to be very successful in comedy, you have to treat it like a business.
Right.
I mean, you really truly do. And I think you're in a unique position where you have, you said a master's degree in business, and you've been in insurance for X amount of years, which is its own. I mean, if
Achievement.
Insurance, the hardest sales I think there is out there. To be honest with you,
I'm good.
You know, if there's one thing I would never sell, I think it is insurance, and I've sold a lot of stuff in my life. But it's like, you have to have a certain grind. Like you were talking about a lot of stuff you've been talking about through. It's like it's stuff I've heard in different sales trainings I've been into, which are very relevant to marketing yourself and being successful out there. And merch is a part of it. And
I think it's important lessons for especially a young comic listening to, or even for me, and I've said it to every guest on the show. This show is really an excuse for me to get an education in comedy because I learned something different from each one. But I think I am so hyper-focused on the writing. The hang is a big thing for me. Just being present in the room, just fucking around with other comics is all I
Which
ever
is
want to
still,
do.
like, it's all part of it.
It's all part of it. But I
Yeah.
really ignore the business side a lot. So I think this has been... Also, we should mention the first guest ever to bring notes for this show.
Yeah, you
I
did.
just didn't know what
Particularly
you
2 pages.
didn't know what you
Is
were
there
gonna have.
anything on your notes that you feel like we haven't touched on? Anything you want to share before we'll wrap up here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But any other points that you want to make about yourself or character comedy, anything at all?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's just every comedian that goes up there. I mean, if we're realistic, we all have egos.
Yeah.
And if you said that you didn't want to make it big time, then you shouldn't be doing it. Period. Now, is the Avenue in Bristol? No.
No.
I mean, it's going to be Nashville. It's going to be San Antonio. It's going to be LA. It's going to be New York, Chicago. I mean, it's going to have to be the big cities. That's where you got to go, and that's where you got to.
What do you think about like Greenville, Tennessee? You think you can make it big there?
Only if you're selling pot. But
Shout out to JoJo.
But the other thing I think, though, that you have to do is do a SWOT analysis. You're back to your business strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And again, as a comedian, even though we're...
I wish you wouldn't have said it so
Where's
quickly.
the notepad
I
when
wish
we
you
need
wouldn't have said what it stood for so quickly. I was going to be like, I was just going to look at you.
I
and
never
like,
paid this much attention
I'll leave
in
you my
school.
vision. How's that sound?
Okay,
I'll leave you
beautiful.
my vision.
Yes,
so
let
you-
me take a look here.
No, but
He's got
I'm
it
just...
indented and everything.
I'm just saying
Underlined.
you got to be working towards something. Otherwise, you're just throwing spaghetti against the wall saying, okay, what's going to stick?
Yeah.
You know, and let me say shout out to Sean Carter. I mean,
Absolutely.
he's allowed me to do my bucket list.
Yeah.
I think of the world of Blue Ridge comedy. I hope it succeeds forever and ever and a day. I hope we blow out the new location. I hope he needs a bigger location.
Yeah.
That new stage, I mean, he's been posting pictures of like the
looks great.
progress of the new stage, and
Yeah.
I'm liking that, like background and how big it is.
That's looking awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
I can really crawl on that stage.
But when my business owner hat comes on, I mean, I just encourage all the comedians to come out and support.
Yeah.
You know, regardless. And I know when sometimes we do a clean comedy, I've got May 3rd, May 4th, I've got the clean comedy weekend coming in.
This will be out before then.
I've got this guy.
Yeah, I already shouted out. You shouted out your Don't Tell. This comes out before your next Don't Tell.
Right,
show.
this will be out this Friday. Yeah.
Yep.
It's Moody Malavi. You know, he's got a dry bar. He's hilarious.
I see
absolutely
him on
hilarious.
so many flyers.
And-
Many flyers.
And I've got 2 ladies from Hoover, Alabama, or Huntsville, Alabama. They're excellent. Both of them are excellent. But when you hear the term clean, sometimes people say, well, it'll be kiddish or it won't be funny.
Yeah.
But I just encourage the other comedians to come out. You don't have to buy a ticket. I mean, typically, Sean never charges comedians to come out.
Yeah.
But to learn from these people who are doing this full time.
Right.
Yeah. I actually do like clean comedy.
I do
lot.
too. I just like comedy.
I
don't think in the way that everybody always gets onto me on this show, I'll be like, now as a female comedian, they're like, don't say that. Blah, 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 blah. But I think
does it
that's
matter?
an important distinction to make. Whereas with styles, I think comedy's comedy. Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it, male, female, who cares? Everybody's doing the same thing. Do you feel like there's ever I don't know if disrespect's the right word, maybe dismissal from non-clean comics towards clean comedy?
I do.
Yeah,
I think
so too.
I think they have to earn I think clean comics metaphorically have to earn their seat at the table a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's harder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's harder, and you got to. I mean, because a dick joke or a pussy joke. I mean,
It's going to get a laugh.
It's going to get a laugh.
Yeah.
It's easy to laugh.
Sometimes you could just throw the word fuck into a sentence and it gets a laugh just
Right.
because that's it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning
Kevin Hart. Anyway,
about-
go ahead.
about, some of the comedians. I've seen some comedians who are still doing the same stuff they were doing 2 years ago when I started.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the hard part for me because when you're there to open mic and you got a good crowd, you want to do something you know is going to hit. You know?
Yeah. That's
So-
the age-old, temptation to crush in front of a new crowd or work on
Yep.
new stuff.
So I keep trying to challenge myself. Like this year, I challenged myself. Okay, I'm not going to do the 3 ex-wives. I'm going to try to do something different.
That math joke you have is really funny.
Yeah.
The math jokes, see, I don't even do that one
That's
anymore.
a very funny joke.
When
He
you do
He starts doing math. I know you're not good at math, but just so you know,
I'm not. Are you saying meth? Is that what you?
I know you're
I'm
good at
familiar
that.
with
You're
it.
from Bristol. You're
I'm
good
very
at math.
familiar. Yeah.
But, like I did new ones last night about the bumble and tumble, I just like that challenge of trying to do that. And I think that's the thing I think each of us need to try to do is keep challenging ourselves, not to get comfortable, not to just get set in our...
I do love trying new stuff at an open mic. That,
Well,
like,
our scene locally too. It's hard to do more than
humbling.
one or two mics a week. Is like you got to travel to do more than
Right.
that. So I think that
travel to do
it's-
2 a week.
It's tough when not anymore, but I think it's tough when you when you go to like one mic a week or 2 mics a week, you want to work on new stuff. You also want to do the stuff that works. It's that challenge of like, I don't have, whereas if we lived in New York and we're doing 3 spots a night, 7 days a week, do the same stuff once a show, and then you still have plenty of time to work on new stuff. So it's taxing in that way. But do you think that you mentioned moving to a bigger city too? Is that in your future at all?
No.
Or you're just going to travel once you get there?
I mean, at 70, again, I'm quitting my insurance business, selling out.
Yeah.
Retiring, and I'm going to get an RV, and we're going to go see grandkids, see the U.S. And again, if I break even, that's my goal. Yeah. Because again, seriously, I've got 20 years, 25 max that I'll be able to do this. So I've told myself I'm going to learn. I'm going to get better and better until I'm 70. So I'm being realistic in my challenges. Yeah. But again, when you see a lot of the shows that I'm doing theaters. I'm not necessarily doing the clubs. Right. But the other thing that I'm good at, and you're good at as well, Michael, in our sales abilities, is I'm not bashful. I'm going on a trip, and my sister lives in Winter Haven, Florida, so I reach out to Laugh Out Loud in Florida, saying, "Hey, can I get a guest spot?" Yeah. And I got a guest spot.
And that's all.
That's all comedy is asking. I swear, that's all this business.
Worst they can say is no.
Yeah. But just like that show in Watauga. Yeah. I asked, "Hey, would you like to have a show?" "Oh, we'd love to have one." Yeah. And they didn't pay a dime for it. It was all tips.
I think
they
it turned
tipped
out
well.
Great, though.
Oh, yeah. It did.
I thought the crowd seemed like they had a good time. With the exception of my set, everybody enjoyed it, I thought.
Oh, I've got compliments after compliments.
Yeah, are you on a clean show? You told me you were doing a clean show, and I was just like...
Yeah, well, now that it's passed, I can tell this story on the show, too, because I don't think I told it on the mic. Phil approached me, this is several months before the gig, and asked me to do it, and I said, yes, that'd be great. I always jump on any opportunity to do time, and I knew it was clean because it's your show, and then it's like maybe 2 weeks before, and you're like, hey, are you still on for next Thursday? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure, yeah, and who all's on it? And you said, you, me, and Mac, and I was like, and who else? And
Megan.
and I don't even think Megan at the time, or I didn't know.
She was the host.
So I was like, who? And you were like, that's it. And I was like, how much time am I doing? And you set up at 20. And I was like, 20? But I wanted to play it like, sure. Oh, sure. I can do that. I can. And then it reeled it back to 15. And I did fine. I think I did fine. One thing, boy, did I lose him at one point. Clean, they didn't want to hear me talk about masturbation. Anyways.
Clean with an asterisk.
That was rough.
He was clean all the way to the very last.
All the way to masturbation. Joke. And boy, did they not like that.
I mean, dude, you just said it. Like, they were like, oh, we love this guy. Then you throw that one in. Yeah, I get it.
Well, it's not even. I forget it. It's in the weeds. But anyways, so it went well. It went well. But I think, do you have any apprehension as the producer, the booker, bringing on comics that you have seen do a lot of not clean work? Do you ever think, oh, I don't know, can he do 20 minutes clean or something like that?
Well, I usually ask. Yeah. I mean, I ask about Michael. I asked Nathan about you. Yeah. Nathan, I said, hey, how much can Michael do clean? And he said, 5 to 7, maybe. But
I've done. When I opened for Aaron Weber, I did 5 clean.
Right. That's what I thought.
I did 5.
Not because I know you have like 10 to 15ish that you feel comfortable doing. So
I got 15.
Normally, if you got 15, 5 of it's good clean.
I got 15 comfortable, but like 4 minutes of that is dick pics and buttholes. Yeah. So, yeah.
And that's just the 4 minutes before you go on stage, which is weird. Yeah. But anyways,
I do have a routine before I get on stage. I just group text every comedian I know. Never mind.
That's true. Stop right there.
Saying,
but I've got a clean show coming up July 13th at the International Storytelling Center.
Do you really?
In Jonesboro?
In Jonesboro.
That's awesome.
And Travis Stevens is going to be a guest.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen Travis do a lot of stuff. And everything from looking like a youth pastor to whatever. And, so some of it's faith. Right. Some of it's saying, okay, it's a clean show, kind of the parameters.
As long as he knows, I think he'll deliver.
Oh, I mean, if I had a question, I would.
I've seen Jared go clean.
Jared Hazen, another great example.
I've seen Jared do 20 or 30 clean at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
He didn't know he had to be clean until he got to the place, and they were like, hey, by the way, it's clean.
Yeah.
And
only he was told that for some reason.
Yeah,
he was very bitter about it.
Yeah, and Jared is hilarious. I mean, that's somebody I forgot to mention. I mean, he's
sorry I can't be on the show tomorrow night, Jared. I know you're not listening, but
Jared
something came up. So.
He's out of town right now. He's on his way back. He'll be here soon. And
his house broke down in Arkansas.
Yeah, his house broke down. He ran out of gas and his house broke down. We love Jared. He's going to be on the show soon.
That made me die when I saw
and
that.
he probably wouldn't mind me sharing this. He, a while back at the club, like you mentioned, has a lot of time under his belt. He's been doing it a long time, different states. He's got a lot of clean, a lot of not clean. He lost his notes or whatever in his phone. He told me he lost over 3 hours of material. I almost had a panic attack when he said. I went home and backed up my notes on my computer that night. I was like,
I'll make you a better comedian.
He actually told me a few days later. He was like, I feel relieved by it in a weird way. I feel like I'm not tied to any of that old shit anymore. I'm refreshed. I'm renewed. That stresses me.
Make you a better comedian.
Phil, gun to your head. How much time do you think you do as Grampy?
15 to 20.
Really?
I mean,
solid 20.
But with the crowd, I don't do crowd work.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, on some of my coaching, I've been told not to ask questions. I have a tendency to ask questions to try to get the audience involved, and so I'm trying to stop asking questions and
Who
just
has
make
a
more
house?
statements.
Well, that's here's. I don't know how I didn't ever think of this before. Crowd work as a character is so stressful.
Dangerous.
Dangerous.
But dangerous.
How do you stay in character and deliver? I can understand why you would avoid that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's got to be.
I mean,
have you ever tried it at all?
It's not my thing. It's just like these roast battles. It's not my thing.
Yeah. I'd
Improv's not.
love to see you on a roast battle.
Grampy on a roast battle would crush.
Dude.
But see,
I think
I'm
you'd
not wanting to tear anybody else down. I want everybody to
They're
lift
all
up.
in on it, though.
I know, but
everybody's-
it's
Michael and I roasted each other, and he cried most of the
I
drive home,
have,
but
I
he got
have
over
some
it.
hard feelings. Not a lot. There are some. He struck a nerve.
but even
I think the most insulting part of it was probably like the. Not even. No, hold on.
Tell the
most,
story.
Which one? I don't remember now. I don't know.
Looking you up and down.
Oh, that was actually at the roast battle. I was gonna say the most insulting part was whenever me, you, and Jared were driving to that show, and Jared was like, "What are you guys talking? Like, where are you guys talking right now? Aren't you guys like best friends?" And Nathaniel was like, "No, like he's not. No." And
I answered too quick, and
We're
it made him
not.
mad.
We're not best friends. No, you're right. And then. Driving back from Knoxville, this drunk motherfucker was like, "You are my best friend in comedy." Yeah,
That's not true.
you did say
That's
that.
exactly what you said.
You did
Anyway,
say that. Anyway.
That's not
you
true.
did say you're like, "You kind of are my best friend in comedy." You're like,
Never
"Ah,
said
fuck off, dude. I don't want that."
or I just don't remember, which is possible.
Yeah.
No. So the
Drunk words are sober thoughts.
crowd
Anyway,
work as a character comic is stressful, but you mentioned roast battle too. That's a totally different format. I mean, is there
and,
any
and
other
pick a side? Stupid. Those
pick
are
a
just.
side? Yeah.
I have to think through my stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to write it down. I have to think it through and try to and I kind of have a story when I talk about writing a book. I have a story. That's how I keep up with my jokes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of have it starts there, starts and I've yet to do a perfect set. I don't know about you guys, but
anyone
I
ever
always
will. Yeah.
It's always one of those things. I forgot this tag. I forgot that tag. I forgot this tag. So that's always my.
Always get
every
so
time I
mad.
get up, is try to get just as close to that
Yeah.
sweet spot as
Sure.
I can. So
Yeah. Well, I think so. We have one final question,
Yeah.
and
Do
normally,
you want to do this final question as Grampy?
I don't know what the question is.
That's true.
I think you should do it as Grampy.
You think so? Should we come?
What do you
Let's
want?
ask him the question, then he can decide.
Yeah.
Do you want any of my
Here's the-
shows? I did bring a list of the
Yeah,
shows.
we're going to
We'll
plug
do that
those
at the
two.
end, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anything you want to plug. But the question we're going to kind of wrap up with as far as the interview is normally we ask every comic, what's one piece of advice you would give to a young comedian who's just starting out? Maybe it's their first open mic or they're new. But I think for you, a better question would be, what's a piece of advice that you would give a young comic who's not exactly sure what lane they want to take? Like an identity crisis comic almost, in that they haven't found their niche yet. Because I feel like you found it.
Right.
Is there one thing you could say that would kind of be encouraging to that person at all?
Well, I mean, I think the main thing is just keep at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again,
Absolutely.
don't look at it as a bomb. Look at it as an opportunity to, hey, I learned something from this one. I
Fail
learned what-
forward.
I know what not to do next time.
Yeah.
That's a real estate
Business
term.
terms. All right.
That's a real-
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's great.
It's very
Yeah.
specific to my employer.
Well, you've also, throughout the
term.
episode, you've mentioned tons of helpful things, like clean as green is another one that I've heard a lot before, which I think is great advice to somebody who hasn't decided what they want from this yet.
Yeah.
And maybe that's it. That's great. Do you have anything to share with other comics who maybe already know their lane, but it's not character comedy? Because I feel like there's still things to learn.
Yeah, and we kind of addressed it a little bit, but we didn't really hit is that SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
The strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yep.
And one of my strengths is I've got a little money,
Yeah.
and I'm able to open some doors with it,
Right.
and I don't necessarily have to make money.
Bribing bookers, I get.
Yeah.
No, I book my own shows. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing that I learned straight out is,
Well, you don't have the fear that, like, a young starving
Yeah.
comic living out of his
Right.
car or
Yeah.
his house breaks down in Arkansas. It's very different financial concerns.
The funniest
Then
post
that
I've seen in a
person
long
has,
time.
yeah.
Well, and I'm very strategic,
Sure.
in like Peachy Tom down in Greenville, South Carolina.
Yep.
So I've got a show in Gainesville, Georgia,
Yeah.
and that came through him.
Mhm.
LA up in Roanoke. I've got Moody and Drew down in Nashville.
Yeah.
I've got a guy named Adam Minnick coming from Ohio. I'm being very strategic in the people I'm reaching out to.
Right.
That in this business, you get me on a show, I'm going to get you on a show. It's kind of a payback.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the biggest advantages that Sean has if he uses it right with Blue Ridge Comedy.
Yeah.
It's opened up a lot of doors to get this comedian to come in, whether, it's Andrew Ledbetter comes in from Chattanooga. Next thing you know, Sean's down in Chattanooga.
Right.
So that, I think that's
He
the
just
thing.
headlined a theater in Chattanooga.
Yeah. Or even like him going to the Lookout Festival and then having Danielle come up and judge the Blue Ridge Festival.
Yep.
But it's also for anybody listening, we're very new to comedy. We're very spoiled. And that's actually a new development in the stand-up world. Like you talk to older comedians, like it didn't used to be like that. It was every man for themselves.
Yeah,
It was
and it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
Shouldn't.
I'm
No.
with you on that. I'm with you.
Rising tides raise all ships, right?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
That's right.
Well, it's
That's
like
how
that
phrase
Holly
goes.
Valentine's out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
So the next thing you know, Sean's on the Georgia comedy things. I mean,
Right.
that's how this business works.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
is
And
you're-
it should. I think it should. Yeah. I
So,
agree.
I mean, so from that, what are your opportunities?
Yeah.
What are your weaknesses?
Mm-hmm.
What are your threats?
Yeah.
A threat is you're in Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia.
Right.
How do you resolve that threat? You move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
know.
a ceiling for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're only going to go so far locally, and I don't mean that to sound the wrong way. Now, if you're just wanting to do it for fun, which why I started out, why I'm doing it now, I'm just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
Fun and fellowship. I get to meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
Get to know a lot of people.
If you never progressed past the point where you are with it right now, would you continue to do it?
No,
Really?
no.
You want to grow?
I mean, if you're not growing, it's like playing golf. I mean, you're going to go out and always shoot 12 over par.
Right. You're going to stop playing.
Yeah,
eventually.
it's
Sure.
eventually
Sure.
Eventually,
Yeah.
the cost is not going to be worth it.
Right. Oh, well, I know I've said many times before that if I never progressed past where I'm at, I would still do it forever. And some days I think that's true. In some ways, I think you don't know until you're there. You just start to feel burnt out. But if you just keep at it, you're going to
think-
grow in some way.
Oh.
I think for me, like I'm pretty comfortable with, not comfortable with where I'm at. I'm comfortable with the progression I'm doing.
Right.
To where like I'm never gonna be
Well, you see it, though.
Tom Segura. Like I'm never gonna be that level because there's too many sacrifices for me
Yeah.
to do that. Because we joke and we talk about my daughter a lot on here.
Well,
but
you'd
it's
have to throw her into a volcano to be successful, and you can't do that.
um
Sacrifice. All right, moving on.
that bomb. That was not a good one. I don't think either one of us
the
got
audience
it.
will appreciate it.
I don't think they will.
Yeah.
But so like I'm content with the progression that I'm at. But if I was doing the same 5 minutes worth of jokes every single week, I would just. Bleh. So my big thing is like I try to get a new 5, and that's how you do it. But I'm trying to get a new 5. But like I don't have any delusions of like touring, headlining clubs throughout the country.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, managing your expectations too is a huge one. But so for you, you think just keep at it. That feels to be the most
Also,
common one.
This
for
is
show.
the avenue that I like. So I like
Right.
the podcasting avenue a lot. So.
Me too. And I think that advice of just keep at it is obviously common answer from the show, but it's common for a reason. Like
Right.
it's the most
Yeah.
beneficial, I think.
Yeah.
But I just think if you're still doing the same jokes, 5 years from today, you've not grown any. Quit.
Yeah.
Quit. I mean, Ralphie May, he has he does like a little session.
The
And he-
master class that he has.
Yeah, and he talks about, if you're not in for full time, get out of my way. You're taking
Yeah.
up my time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
I think that all the time on an open mic list. I'm like, I could have gone up 5 minutes ago if you would have just not been on this list. I think that a lot.
Well,
And
but
that's just when Michael's on stage.
But I'm
Yeah.
not saying that you.
Whenever
that
I eat it.
I'm not saying that if you're not working to be the next Nate Bargatze. I'm not saying. I'm not saying that there's different levels of success,
Yeah,
and I think that's a fallacy that young people have, that if I don't reach this goal, then I'm not a success.
Yeah.
I'm not the best insurance person in the Tri-Cities.
Yeah.
But I'm a success. I'm very comfortable.
Right.
And I think that's where you got to get into your comedy.
I'm
is
the best real estate agent. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not.
You're
Rookie
doing
of the
well.
year.
You're doing well.
He's rookie of the year.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? You have to set your sights on what your level of success
Yeah,
is.
I agree with that. You have to have an obtainable goal.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to have a smart goal.
Right. And a reach goal.
Yeah, and a reach goal.
And a reach goal.
Do you know what a smart goal is?
I feel like I'm in fucking school.
Do you know what a smart
This
goal
is
is?
unbelievable. I did not study for this test. No,
okay.
I don't know your acronyms.
I can't remember.
This is exactly like when I go out with my military friends and they're like, the CBAT and the TOC went into the DOT. And I'm like, what acronyms are we using?
You don't know what those
right
mean?
now? You don't know what I'm episode.
I know.
Anyways, we. So
I'm
that's our show.
I'm also low key forgetting what a SMART goal stands for right now, but it's okay.
What an
Trackable is what the T is.
What an idiot.
Anyway.
So that's our show. That's our show. Grampy, please plug any dates you want to plug. All the dates, we'll be sure and post them as well.
All right. Well, we got the Clean Comedy Weekend coming up May 3rd and May 4th.
Yes. And that's at Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge Comedy, Bristol. Yeah.
And then on May 23rd, this is not a clean show. This is our R-rated show at the Sixes Grist and Grind Brew House in Kingsport, Tennessee. That's a new monthly show
Sounds like a dirty show.
that I'm hosting that I need to talk to you guys about.
That's quite a name.
And then I've got, let's see, July 13th, the Clean Comedy Show in Jonesboro, Tennessee.
And that one's dirty, right?
Is that at the storytelling?
Yeah, it's at the International Storytelling.
Right. That one's dirty.
That one's clean.
Oh, okay.
That one's clean.
Travis, that one's clean.
And then it's not been announced yet, but October 6th, Sunday Fun Day at the Paramount.
Oh, shit.
And
You heard it here first.
I'll be on that show. Sean will be on that show. Jay Covis will be on that show, and a lady named Sonia White.
Love
So it's going to be at 3:00 afternoon. It's going to be a little older
That's
crowd. October the 6th.
October the 6th.
That one hasn't been announced just yet by
Yeah.
the Paramount, so
That's
I'm kind of
great.
a little bit
That's
ahead.
6 months from now.
Spoils.
That's crazy.
Yeah, inside spoils. Well, if anybody listening knows the name Jay Covis, or if you don't, go out and see Jay Covis. He's fucking incredible. He's the best. He is the best. So yeah, that's our show. We'll plug our shit later.
Let's do it now because that other bit's gonna be at the beginning. You messed me up.
No, let's plug it at the beginning. Let's do it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
We're
We
done.
love you.
That's
All
it.
right.
Thanks for coming
All
on.
right.
We appreciate
Bye.
you. Bye.